For years, fans, developers and publishers have said that the 3D Collectathon platformer was dead, but 2017 has seen a mini revival of the Collect Everything game. It was a genre that hit its height in the 90s and early 2000s, with studios like Rare, Nintendo and even Naughty Dog heavily investing in producing games where successful platforming was rewarded with trinkets. Whether they be orbs, jiggies or stars, at one point every developer wanted you to collect something. Super Mario Odyssey, one of the pinnacles of this year's games, is by its very nature a 3D Collectathon platformer, with literally thousands of different types of collectibles. From moons to coins to different types of currency in each kingdom, it is the very definition of a collectathon. As great as Odyssey is though, it wasn't the only title to come out this year that let you collect almost everything in sight. Yooka-Laylee, A Hat in Time, and even Crash Bandicoot's Insane Trilogy have all brought back memories of yesteryear where you were rewarded for every nook and cranny that you searched. You could argue that the Kickstarters for both Yooka-Laylee and A Hat in Time proved that there was a legitimate desire for these types of games to return. In fact, the Yooka-Laylee Kickstarter broke the record for a crowdfunded video game at the time when its funding stopped, racking up an impressive $2.7 million. Yooka-Laylee had the core development team from Rare to sell itself on though, and the less popular A Hat in Time, which launched its Kickstarter 2 years prior to Yooka-Laylee in 2013, still managed to raise an impressive $296,000. Both launched this year to fairly positive reviews, A Hat in Time averaging a 79 on OpenCritic, with Yooka-Laylee on 72. We reviewed Yooka-Laylee ourselves this year and presented it with a 4 out of 5 and a badge of recommendation, despite some camera issues which have been improved thanks to recent patches. After the success of Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie and other similar titles of the 90s, developers took it for granted that the route to sales was amassing as much as possible into worlds, without thinking about player fatigue or helping players move through the worlds at a decent pace. The choice to stop making 3D collectathons wasn't a conscious one by developers and publishers, but through a decline in sales, mostly in part due to the sheer amount of them coming out. A similar occurrence has happened in other genres in recent years, and it has very much coincided with the collapse of non-AAA games from publishers like THQ. Move back a decade ago, and both the sports and FPS genres were full of games from developers out with the usual AAA studios. Collectathons were coming out at an increased pace throughout the entire era of the PS1 and PS2, with many severely lacking in quality. There have been exceptions to the rule of course since the PS2 era, with Super Mario Galaxy and its sequel, Super Mario Galaxy 2, as two of the greatest games ever made, but this type of quality has been far too rare. Many developers, experts and commentators have rightly called time on the 3D Collectathon in the last 10 years. Until this year, that is. This year has seen a return to form for the 3D Collectathon platformer, with the aforementioned Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which far surpassed sales expectations, A Hat in Time, Yooka-Laylee and Super Mario Odyssey releasing with the type of quality and consistency needed to keep a genre viable. The revival of 2D platformers in the indie scene, with games such as Shovel Knight and Sonic Mania reinvigorating a 2D platformer renaissance, means we're now seeing a similar enthusiasm for 3D collectathons. The recent success of new 2D platformers has really paved the way for 3D collectathons to make a comeback. We should see a number of new titles in this genre in the next few years, especially from the indie community, and the 3D collectathon platformer should stick around as long as the quality is high and consistent. As long as there isn't an influx of rushed cash grabs like there was in the 90s and early 2000s, I mean who remembers Bubsy 3D, then we should see this genre continue. The game that has brought the collectathons back to the forefront though is undoubtedly Super Mario Odyssey. Nintendo's ability to not just present players with a plethora of collectibles, but to do it in a way that constantly keeps the gameplay fresh and, most importantly, fun, is why it will be widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time when all is said and done. The 3D Collectathon died, in part, due to developers looking to cash in on its popularity. Games that threw things in for players to collect just for the sake of it completely missed the point of what made the genre popular to start with: exploration. That feeling of curiosity, which leads to discovery and is followed by reward, is a gameplay mechanic that made it fun to find hidden notes in Banjo-Kazooie, uncover orbs in Jak and Daxter, and is now providing us with unbridled joy into the search for Power Moons in Super Mario Odyssey. The 3D platform Collectathon has made a minor comeback in 2017. Let's hope that developers looking to take advantage of this mini revival realise that the key isn't to collecting things for collecting's sake, but rewarding players for having the will to explore every cave, every hole, and every flaw of the world that they create. Reward the exploration, and you'll have made a game that players will enjoy for years.